PrepperNow. There is a lot going on up here in Syria. And so there's concerns about a coup d'etat that is possibly going on right now. I have the latest. So here's a map that gives you a good idea of what, where, who, how, and all that kind of stuff. So this is right here. That's Damascus, okay? Aleppo, I'm not seeing on the map, but it is... it's in this area. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's in that area. Homs is big. And Hama is been taken as well. Actually, I think Aleppo's up here. Way up here. And then, yeah. Okay, yeah. I think I have my bearings right. Now, of course, over here is Lebanon and the Mediterranean Sea. The big question right now is this thing right there. That is called Tartus. And Tartus is important to the Russians because it is a warm water port. So, Crimea. Why did Russia basically throw down because of Crimea? A lot of people say, oh, it's they're trying to get Ukraine into NATO, and honestly, if you really pull it all back, Russia didn't want to not have the port at Crimea, and the reason why is because it's a warm water port. The Black Sea is called the Russian bathtub for a reason. Well, this is equally important. In fact, some could even say more important. This is Tartus, and it is part of Syria, and it is important to the Russians. So Damascus, of course, is down there. Aleppo is way up there. Homs had some issues, but Hama is the next one down. This M5 road is what you want control of, and from a military line of things. Okay, so what's going on right now is there's issues in Syria, and Aleppo has fallen. Okay, and so they're saying this is the plan. Come from up here. All the red is Bashar al-Assad. The green is HTS and what they've taken. And the goal is to take all this and then to do what's known as a pincer move. This is very important in strategy of military. So before we get there and we come back, I'm going to leave it up here on this sucker. And we're going to go over here to a special report on the crisis report. And this is a coup in Syria, ? Okay? So we're going to start with a summary of what has gone on today. Now, I just got done with the crisis report at about 1 o'clock. And then at 1 to 2 o'clock, I had a little bit of an issue I had to deal with on a personal level. Nothing big. I play music, and one of our members is not feeling well. And so I had to aid in trying to get things covered and cinched up there so we didn't aggravate the club, yada, yada, yada. So a little bit of money out of my pocket, but ultimate things, scheme of things, not a big deal. So I had to deal with that. And then, excuse me, as I was looking at all this stuff and getting ready to do a live stream on PrepperNow, this coup in Syria started to potentially unfold. Now, there's a lot of question marks about this. If you ask very good sourcing on the East, they're saying nothing's going on and it was just some gunfire. If you ask very good sourcing on the West, you're saying, whole thing is collapsing and Bashar al-Assad is gone. Okay? So we're back into that fog of war thing. So to counteract that, we're going to get right into it and crack it open like a can of informational whoop, you know what. Okay? So I'm going to give you the summary. I'm going to give you some thoughts on what's gone on so far, and it's evolving quickly. And at the end, I've got a piece by Jerry Nolan of why this is all going to devolve into effectively what will be a WW3, and why it all really started in this portion of Syria. Not today, but over 10 years ago. Okay? So here's a summary of what's just happened in the last 24 in Syria. And this is big stuff because it is affecting everything all over. So jihadist rebels have consolidated their gains in Aleppo, including the international airports. They've taken not just one, but 2 airports. SDF has taken up positions in Aleppo to defend the Kurds in the Sheikh Maqsad and Tel Rafat neighborhoods. Okay, this is Syrian Defense Forces. SNA, Syrian National Army. Now that's why this is so incredibly tough to understand. There's all these different, there's literally like 6 or 7 groups all fighting in this area. I mean, it is the epitome of a failed state. You've got the Syrian National Army, you got the Syrian Arab Army, you've got the Syrian Defense Forces, you've got HTS, you've got the YPP, PKK Kurd groups, all over the place. I couldn't even begin to try to explain it. So I'm just going to, once you see these letterings or whatever, just try to keep it in the who's pro to the west and who's pro to the east. Okay? Turkey has been a little bit two-faced in all this, but really if you peel back the onion, they are pro-west. Okay? And this is kind of where it all comes out, and why now a lot of the resistance fighters of the east are aggravated with Erdogan, and you're going to start to see that because he basically is saying out in front of the people publicly that he condemns the Israelis, but really in the backside, on the bottom, 40% of the industry in Israel, if I read correctly and remember correctly, these are all products from Turkey or through Turkey. So there is a very much of a unholy alliance between Turkey and Israel. So the SNA has announced the launch of an operation to expel the al-Assad army Kurdish forces from Syria. They have so far made progress in northern Aleppo. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, that is the HTS, has made major advances, including entering the city of Hama, as you saw in the other one. Here's your map. You've got Hama, Homs, big city, and you got Hama. Up north of that, you've got Aleppo. Moving back. Confusing reports of gunfire in Damascus. So far, no comment from official authorities. I'm going to give you both sides. That's what we do here. I'm not pro. I'm not anti. I am anti-war, and that is it on every single portion of this. And it is devolving into a global conflict of World War III, and I want you to understand why, and we're going to give you everything here. So, militants northwest in Syria, loss of most of the Idlib province, city of Aleppo. This happened today, 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. local there, I believe 2 p.m. Local here. Situation in the northwestern part of the Syrian Arab Republic continues to deteriorate by the hour. Syrian troops, some disarray, others organized, retreating from more advantageous lines, effectively ceding city after city to the militants. Okay, now if you're wondering where all this is from, this is my Substack. I've got PrepperNow.substack.com, and this is where I've got this thing I call the Crisis Report, and do it my other channel. If you're not subscribed over there, please do it. That is youtube.com/@Crisis Report. In about 30 to 45 minutes, I will friggin' blow your mind out with the amount of information. There isn't a single news anything on this platform that I have seen that outdoes the amount of news that I give to people. So, not to kiss my own ass, but I'm kissing my own ass. All right. Syrian troops, some disarray, organized, recreating more advantageous lines, effectively ceding city after city to the militants. Jihadists have managed to seize at least 60% of the city of Aleppo. Isolated pockets remain in the eastern neighborhoods of the city, but there are no combat operations. In this case, the SAA, or Syrian Arab Army, that's Assad, have entrenched themselves in fortified facilities, network of underground tunnels and such. Territories under the control, militants are running the show security services of the Salvation Government, the political cover for the terrorist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, or what they want to replace Assad with, have arrived in the city. Curfew has been imposed. Security personnel have been deployed. Periodically, the Russian aerospace forces strike concentrations of militants and the facilities they have occupied. However, even with these continuous strikes, it will not be possible to stop the advance of the anti-government formations ground forces needed there to stop them. North of the province, occupation of Ta'if and factions of the pro-Turkish conglomerate Syrian National Army, SNA, seized the Quiris Air Base, also basically an airfield. From 12 to 15, the facility was besieged by militants, withstood, but now everything is completely different. Russian and Syrian troops have previously evacuated. Regrettable moment is the spread of the control of Islamist groups over most of Idlib province. Resistance here was found only offered in the initial stages of the fighting. Servicemen of the 25th Special Purpose Division in Sadakib and its environs city fell. So the city has fallen. Now there's pockets of resistance, but for the most part, Aleppo is gone and Idlib is gone. Militants captured the Abu ad-Dakhur airfield. And you notice they're going from airfield to airfield. The Khmeimim, or whatever it is, Khmeimim, Russian one is the big one that they cannot lose. That is like Tartus, and that is getting all of the weapons and stuff to Lebanon and the resistance down there, and that's why the Israelis want this area. They want to stop the flow of weapons into Hezbollah from the north and northeast of the country that they cannot stop. By making Syria fall, they are gaining control, and they are going to possibly be able to do whatever they want to do to stop the flow of weapons into Lebanon, okay? So, spoils of war is located 50 kilometers from the city of Idlib, de facto center of HTS, puppet government, notably the city of fell same day as Quiris. Now, this is all from Rybar. Rybar is pro-Russian. Is basically, you're getting the Russian government's version of things. So if they're telling you that things are falling, then it is falling, okay? Syrian resources can accuse Russia as much as they want of allegedly allowing the tragedy to happen. However, the determining factor here is the lack of proper understanding situation by the Syrian military command and the lack of interest of the SAA units in fighting for their country. One person asked, you've been there for 5 years, why haven't you dug trenches? Why haven't you dug tunnels? Why haven't you fortified cities, installations, and other portions of this to withstand such a thing? They hadn't done any of that, and now they're getting what this guy from Rybar, or Russian government, is saying is what they deserved, and Russia didn't have anything really to do with it. Doesn't matter. So no intensity of Air Force will save the actual state of affairs. The flight of the armed forces of the Arab Republic and the blitzkrieg of various Islamist bandit formations, which do not encounter much resistance, continues. There's been a accusation that most of these fighters for HTS and the pro-Western terrorists, as the East is calling it, are Uzbeki, or Uzbek, okay? That's from Uzbekistan. And so they have gone in there because they've effectively overwhelmed. Imagine you're sitting there, you've been in like a quasi-civil war, a little shooting here, a little bombing here, a little raid there, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's like zombie apocalypse. Everybody and their brothers coming at you from all over the place. You are overwhelmed, you are surrounded, you pick your weapons up and you GTFO. That's what happened in the last 72 to 96 hours, okay? All right, so this is Aquila. Aquila is pro-West. He is not, he's former military, and he knows this stuff, and he has excellent sources, so he is getting the Western version of this, and I believe what he's saying, so that's why I kind of don't understand exactly what the reality is. This is all fog of war. We'll know in the next 12 hours, but there is an accusation that there are rumors, as it says here, of a military coup in Syria. On the East, they're saying, no, it's not happening. That was just gunfire. Everything's hunky-dory. In the West, Aquila is saying that he's getting through his military contacts that there has been a coup attempted in Syria, unknowing of the success, but it is unfolded. So Assad was returning from Moscow. Rumors swirl of a military coup. Here we go. It's the second ballot of Hama It's that city, again, not Homs, Hama, right up here, okay? Syrian rebels are assaulting the city as we speak. Gunfire heard in Damascus, near the presidential palace. Two factions of the SAA, that is the Syrian Arab Army that is pro-Assad, reportedly have broken out into clashes. And then he says it's official, a military coup is underway in Damascus. Syrian state TV has just gone off air, which is a huge signal that something bad is going on. Very heavy clashes reported right now just outside the Syrian presidential palace. Iraq has closed its border crossing with Syria amid ongoing coup attempt. Bashar al-Assad is no longer president. Syrian sources are already reporting. And I can't deny or confirm that, but that is what is being told by Aquila, and he usually gets his stuff correct. So, moving on. Coup in Damascus is confirmed. Hassam Luka, chief of the General Security Directorate of the Syrian regime, is trying to oust Bashar al-Assad. They probably promised him to become the new king of things. Militants in Daraa have also launched an armed uprising from the U.S.-controlled Al-Tanf security zone in southern Homs. Other militants went on the raid in Deir ez-Zor. Russian think tank Rybar detailed the scenario of what is happening in Syria as early as 2 months ago, and it's shocking. And next, I've got the grand scheme of things and how we are sleepwalking into a nuclear Armageddon, possibly. Okay? So this is what's going on right now. This is the latest. This is Syria. Let's just kind of see what's going on. All right. 2 seconds ago. Yep. There we go. Trying to see if... all right, there's Aleppo. Okay, so there's a better picture of things right there from a map standpoint. Aleppo's up top. There is Hama right there, and of course below that would be Homs on the way to Damascus. So, right there. Anyway, so that's Bashar al-Assad right there. Okay, so let's go into why all this matters. Okay, I was thinking if there's development. We're kind of so right now it's about 9-10 o'clock over there. It's been a heavy day of about 96 hours of clashes. They've got Damascus on the mind, so they're probably chilling out for the night, going to get a nice meal, try their best to chill out and regroup and go for it in the morning. Okay. So this is a guy by the name of Jerry Nolan. He writes for the Global South, which is a BRICS-centered Telegram, online media, whatever, right? And he has written this piece, and I think it does a good job of showing why we are sleepwalking into maybe not a nuclear Armageddon, but at least the Third World War, okay? And I think it's important because he lays out a lot of stuff. I'm going to go through this and give you some thoughts because I think people don't understand the grand scheme of things. So when you understand that this is dollar versus BRICS, America versus Russia, China, as the baseline of everything, and who will control the financial center of the world, who will control everything, goes down to what's going to happen with that financing. If you've got the money system like America has since Bretton Woods, you can do whatever the HE double hockey sticks you want. That's a fact. So the East wants this. Okay? So why are they doing it? They've created this BRICS. They're getting all these other countries around them to challenge the dollar. Well, the dollar will not be challenged because the West is not going to give up power and that finance, because those people means that all the jerk faces that are in control on our end of things are going to lose their clout. They're going to lose their influence. They're going to lose their money. So here we go. Kevin Grip, thank you so much. So as of writing this powerful Russian response, Fyodor Lukyanov, incisive analysis, points out ongoing standoff in Ukraine effectively become a direct confrontation between Russia and NATO, nuclear-armed entities. They have no safeguards like they did in the Cold War. That's key right there, and something that people miss. In the Cold War, there was a red line, there was different things that were put in place to make it so things happen. Even when the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, there were back channels. Those are largely gone. Okay? So the breakdown of private back channel communication, once the cornerstone of managing nuclear deterrence, has given way to comms via public posturing playing out in the media. So basically, instead of going to the back channel and calling them and saying, hey, let's talk this through, they go on to Twitter X, they go on to wherever, and they publicly posture for a soundbite. So dangerous shift, catastrophic is what he says. Said in the Cold War, functional system of discrete diplomacy allowed for signals to be sent and received with clarity. Now that's not happening. Now with the 24/7 news cycle, that's not happening. Critical buffer is evaporated. Contradictory leaks, confusion, all of that. Noise. Okay, that's what he's saying. Russia has adopted a direct and unambiguous approach, publicly marking its red lines in the absence of trustworthy back-channel diplomacy. That's what the Oreshnik was last week. They couldn't get anybody to listen to him. Russia kept saying, stop doing this. Stop. Don't tell them to use the ATACMS. Don't allow them to use the Storm Shadows or the Scalps. Back off. Don't do this. This is our fight. We just, whatever, for whether you like it or not. They were saying, back off. And it just kept getting more and more. It's like you're sitting there and you're watching two kids in a lunchroom, and the one kid keeps picking on the other, and the other kid says, man, if you say it again, I'm going to take this freaking lunch tray, and I'm going to whap you upside the head with it. And the kid keeps going, just keeps poking him, That's what Russia was saying. And eventually they said, all right, F it. And they said, we're going to drop this new hypersonic with the MERV technology. And they did it. And it didn't even have major explosives on the end. It was this is what we have here and we can deploy. Don't make us do it. We don't want all this crap going on. But of course, what happened? They keep poking. And this guy's going to tell you why this is so dangerous now. It said the risk of leaders being forced to act to prove their threats becomes higher. And he is absolutely correct. All these people, the red lines and the you don't go here, or if you do this, we'll do that, the tit for tat crap that's going on, there's no speaking in the background anymore. That's why it's dangerous when they say, well, we don't talk to them anymore. The communication lines are down, or Russia says we don't want to talk anymore. If you don't have those back channels and ways to basically clearly communicate with some peace, quiet, and not the prying eyes of the public, you can't really do that. And then from there, eventually you get cornered and you're going to start throwing punches. So, and it really is kind of more of a Western thing that has abandoned this diplomacy for what they call megaphone posturing. All right. So they're playing to the domestic audiences, NATO partners, and the MIC, which demands perpetual conflict. Correct. So that's why all of the budgets are going up and everything else. And now why you've got the European Council going together and saying you got to use 0.25% of your GDP to add into this. We need to create production centers of ammunition. We need to put dragon's teeth on the border between Lithuania and Russia. All this different stuff is all because they're not willing to say, you know what, let's just get back to what we used to do and talk to each other in a calmly and non-postured, out in public way and solve this problem diplomatically. They're not doing that. And I can tell you, as a guy with a geopolitical degree, this is the biggest concern. When you don't have diplomacy, you've got posturing. When you have posturing, you're eventually going to get some person to say, you know what, you're not listening to me, and now we're going to slap you upside the head. And that's what's going on. And that's why this is so dangerous. So Russia has been forced into a position where clarity is its only shield. Red lines are laid bare, not because it seeks escalation, because ambiguity has proven fatal in the face. They say one thing and they do another. Hey, if you do this, if you follow the Minsk Accords and everything else, everything will be fine. And then they go on and they urinate all over the Minsk Accords. If you don't know what those are, they're effectively what held the peace together between Ukraine and Russia before the SMO started in 2022. Go check them out. So what makes this moment uniquely dangerous is the psychological trap that leaders of both sides now face. Public commitments to credibility mean the retreat or compromise is no longer seen as strength, but painted as weakness. Okay? So what he's saying is, if you're going to say it out publicly, if you're saying, well, we're going to do this, if you guys do that, the public and domestic audiences expect that to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then they're afraid they're going to lose their, next election or whatever the heck it is. So trust is eroding. They can't diffuse crises. And a single misstep by an overzealous military commander could take that rhetoric and turn it into what they call an uncontrollable chain reaction. Okay? So NATO, of course, it says they're calling him increasingly reckless. I just think they keep pushing the buttons. I think they they just keep saying, you know what? Like Zelensky comes out. What does Zelensky say? He says, I want peace. Okay, cool. What's that going to look like? You know what? We'll cede territory. Oh, okay. Now we're talking about something that we'll listen to, or Russia will listen to. But then he says, you know what? I want NATO entry. What do you think this Russian SMO thing with Ukraine is? Basically, they knew that Zelensky and Ukraine was going to become a NATO member in the not-so-distant future, and so they went in. This is what they say. This is their words. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying I agree. I'm not saying I like it. I'm just telling you what they said, okay? They said they're worried that they're going to join NATO, and then right up next to us, we're going to have a full-on NATO member right on our border, amongst others. The last one, and a big one at that, while taking out our Crimea base and the warm port that we have there for our submarines that flow through the Black Sea. So, NATO's increasingly reckless posture. Biden saying, go ahead and use the ATACMS, the Storm Shadows, the Scalp, nudges us closer to the brink, daring Russia to respond. And this is why I said this the other day. At some point, to gain the upper hand, someone's going to throw a haymaker. They're going to go in and they're going to do something that is unexpected. You're kind of seeing that right now with Syria. They go in, they say, okay, we're going to do a ceasefire. It's not a truce. We're going to do a ceasefire, and we're going to, just kind of give it 60 days and revamp and everything and give our militaries a break. And then literally, on the same moment that thing is signed and put into motion, HTS and all of these other groupings start going balls deep into Syria and attacking the proxies of Iran and Russia and challenging their strategic bases at Kamaim and Tartus and other places. So what do you think Russia is saying? If they're willing to go to war over their warm water port in Crimea, do you think they're willing to go to war over their warm water port in Tartus? You better GD believe they are. So now they're deploying these hypersonic ballistic missiles that go Mach 9, Mach 10, and can literally obliterate a city with the right kind of detonators on top of them. And that was, as he puts it, a calculated signal to show them that we're not jacking around anymore. We're done. We just want to do our thing. And I'm not saying what Russia's doing right, but at the same time, they're saying, you guys have, in our minds, pushed us into a corner. We're trying to reestablish some footing to give us some breathing room, and now you're coming down even harder on us in other ways, in other places. And it's not going to go well. So they say the West strategy is built on the illusion of Russian hesitance, miscalculation. Russia, I think in their mind, this is my personal opinion, I think Russia believes that this is existential. And I don't think the people in the West, as it says here, the illusion of Russian hesitance, believe that Russia has the cojones to really start jacking stuff up and using some weapons that we don't want to see on the battlefield. I reiterate what I said the other night. I told my dad, I said, Dad, if you see a nuclear weapon used anywhere in the world, you get in your vehicle and you come up to us. We're getting to that point. Now, I'm not talking about the Satans or the Sarmats or, the ones that can basically obliterate everybody and thrust us into a nuclear winter for the next 2 years and kill 90% of the planet. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about strategic, low-yield battlefield nukes and stuff like that. That's the next step. This is all going to step. It's all escalating. Nothing happens overnight, but at some point, someone's going to take the glove off and they're just going to swing hard. So Moscow has no illusions about what's at stake. It reflects a sobering acknowledgement of the existential threat that is posed by NATO. If your existence is threatened, are you going to do everything you can to make sure that you and your loved ones are protected? You better believe it. Someone comes into my house and is going after my family, you better believe my job is to lay down my life. And I know you, the men out there, understand that as well, and some of the women. Probably all of you. That's what Russia is starting to believe, I think. And that's what makes this so dangerous and why I thought this article was so important, because he really does a good job of laying it out in what this escalation is. It takes time for war to happen, folks. It's not going to happen overnight and, make a bunch of people click on my YouTube channel. That's not what this is about. It's not some hyperbolic thumbnail. It's about a slow roll with logistics and a touch of strategy to get people into the place where they can sustain a war. And I personally think, and I hope I'm wrong, I pray to God I'm wrong, that in my lifetime we're going to see a battle for the planet happen. So as he says, this is poker played with nuclear chips, bluffing, brinksmanship, logic, restraint, all of that is on the table. U.S. and NATO, emboldened by their own propaganda, are gambling the Russians won't escalate, but Russia, rooted in a historical memory of existential defense, isn't playing the West game and is prepared for survival. He says history will not be kind. I would agree with that. You put down the might of NATO USA capabilities. I'm not putting down the might and the capabilities of NATO, Nathan. I'm saying that they are arrogantly pushing us into a conflict when they should use diplomacy. I don't think we're weak. I think we're going into the kind of war that's going to affect the planet. That's a pretty simple statement, dude. Where have I said that NATO sucks? I'm saying that NATO is being a little bit too based in pushing red lines when the Russians are saying stop doing it. I'm saying they should go to the negotiating table, quite clearly. That's what I'm saying. So I get your point. That's why I'm going to respond to it respectfully. I'm not putting down NATO by any stretch. NATO was there. I think it's a little bit of an antiquated thing that could become reformed into something. But the fact is, in the minds of the Russians, and that's what I'm coming from, to them, they're pushing their red lines, and that would make them respond. I don't want Russia to respond. Okay? I personally don't have a problem with NATO as an existence or an entity or anything else until the fact that they are pushing buttons and making it so American soldiers and European soldiers and young men and women like my wife's niece, who is over in Saudi Arabia in the Air Force right now, get into harm's way. That's my concern. My concern is that, as he puts it out here, a bunch of arrogant politicians are going to start saying things. They're going to put us into a posturing for war, and someone's going to throw a punch, and it's going to happen. And then at that point, it's going to make everything that you've seen before look like child's play. So I get the point. No joke about it. Serious, they start the fire and they'll wish they never did. That's right. Absolutely, JK. Absolutely. So they this thing is got a lot of potential. And I just want people to understand. It really is humanity's future. But like when you peel back everything, this really has to do stuff with finance. This is a bricks versus dollar thing that is happening. Why do you think the Sauds in June got rid of the dollar? There's no longer a petrodollar, folks. There's petroleum traded in dollars, but it's not all traded in dollars anymore. Now you can use the yuan, you can use the ruble, you can use the rial or whatever the heck it is for Saudi Arabia. You can use gold. Why do you think gold has shot up so much? The other thing about gold that people don't understand is look how strong the dollar is right now. Dollar always used to be in the mid 80s to mid 90s, and maybe every once in a while would tap the nuts on 100, but it's at like 105, 106 right now on its rating scale, the USDX, whatever the heck it is. So that means gold historically should be even more expensive. Why is that? It's because the dollar isn't as trusted anymore. It's not as used in international trade, and there is this push to displace it as the world reserve currency. So all I can say is this is coming. It's coming. And until, as he says, we get back to a place of diplomacy, that's really what I'm saying. So like to Nathan's comment, I get what you're saying. And I'm not coming off like, NATO is the aggressor or anything like that. But when you're doing things and you're posturing and the other side says, stop, or I'm going to really start to get mad and do some things you're not going to like, at that point, you send in the diplomats. At that point, you open up the back channel. At that point, you start to talk to people. You start to say, hey, okay, we kind of pushed it. I mean, the whole reason why the Cuban Missile Crisis was diffused is because they knew that we would have the missiles in Turkey or whatever the heck it was, or we had the missiles in Turkey, and that if they took away theirs, we took away ours, and it diffused what really could have been a terrible situation before I was even on this earth. And God bless that Russian sailor, whatever the heck his name, the general, whatever his name is, who was down there and had to make the decision and went against the two other guys when they were saying push the button. That's the thing. Like we don't that misstep really could start a chain of reaction that would be a problem. That's why we need to have as much communication as possible. You're not going to get through things by, going onto Twitter and calling everybody a pussy because, you're strong and you got, big old missiles and stuff. You're going to get through it by talking to them in diplomatic reason. Why do you think the ceasefire happened in the first place in Israel with Hezbollah? It's because they all came together at the table. Now, I can assure you, Iran, Russia, and the others are not real happy about it right now. But the point is that this whole influence thing of the world is in motion. It's not going away. We're going to be moving and grooving towards major conflict on a world stage. So, you think a person that sits on a gold toilet can relate to you? Absolutely correct. No, they don't. They don't relate to you. None of them. And I'm not just talking Orange Man Bad or the House of Assad, who've probably got a fleet of golden toilets as well. That's why it's important for everybody. Let me take this back to the prepping tip, guys. That's why it's important for you guys to get things in order for yourself. Now, the good news is that this all takes time. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope, they whack the troll. Any trolls, mods, just get rid of them. Whatever. We're just you've got time right now. This stuff takes time. I don't really see, unless the reestablishment of back channels and diplomacy and stuff gets going, I don't see us talking down from this. And as things get going, the dominoes are going to fall more and more and more. The cat is out of the bag. And at some point, it's really going to get rolling. Why do you think China and Russia were doing little tests into the AIDZ of Korea and the ADs of Taiwan and the defense zone of Japan? They're testing stuff. They're seeing what it looks like. How does this feel, you know? What is this going to look like? The Oreshnik thing was a test. They want to say, does this thing work? We won't put a weapon on it, but we'll drop the sucker and show them what MERV technology looks like on the battlefield. They wanted to see. So, I know that we're just at this point of like arrogance at this point. And, you know, I know people think that we've got brighter days on the horizon with Orange Man bad. And yes, I say it as a joke. I voted for him, okay? I didn't like what was going on. But we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. I hope that diplomacy will ring true. I hope that he'll come and do the peace through strength thing. Like I heard a thing where he wanted to talk to Kim Jong-un again. You know, Putin has definitely said some things like he's an intelligent guy and he can possibly find a way out of all this if they'll allow him to do it. I don't think that, you know, a lot of countries want to have, you know, a major global conflict. I think some do, but I think some don't. But I think the problem is that we've got a lot of people on our side, these academics that are not really used to the real world effects of things, and then have sitting there and buried their nose in books written by people that said all the right things but have all the wrong ideas. They're listening to that and they're thinking, yeah, Russia's a big wuss. They're not going to do anything. Actually, I think Russia will do something eventually. I don't want to push them to that point. So we just keep pushing the conflict, and they push back because, again, they think it's existential. And eventually it's just going to happen. They're just going to do something that we're not going to like. I don't know what that looks like. But it'll be escalatory. Well, you know, it's not going to be a global thermonuclear or whatever. You know, it'll just be battlefield this, then an escalation there, and then the Herashnik here, and then that then there, and then boom. All of a sudden, in one of these war zones, you're going to see a low yield happen. And then after the low yield, you're going to start to see the dominoes really fall, because at that point, all the diplomacy will be trashed. We should have all the envoys and all the diplomats in the world working at this right now. You know, our entire global finances hang in the balance. We're really pushing towards a recession unless something changes in the next, 6 months to a year. They're saying 2025, we're going to see a recession, maybe worse. What happens if there is major conflict? What does that do to the global finances? So when we're sitting here and we're watching the videos and everything, and I do the crisis report, which is this right here, on purpose, because I know you're busy and I want you to get half hour, strap on the earbuds, do whatever it is you do, and, see what's going on around the world, but not to the point where you're not able to get out there and prep and do stuff. You should be making things in your world better. You should be doing things for your little place in the world and making it better. What are you going to do? Do you have water? Do you have food? Do you have all that kind of stuff? Do you got backups of things? Do you have a network of people? Do you know what your area would look like after a long emergency? What are the choke points? What are the back roads you can take to get the hell out if you need to? All that kind of stuff you need to be doing that kind of stuff right now. It's what people used to do. It's not like it's, people, oh, you're crazy. Well, no, I'm not crazy. Prepping is what people used to do. We're here because of preppers. We're not here because of academics. You know? We're here because your great-grandfather and everybody said, you know what, let's put some food away. I hear it's going to be a cold winter. Hey, let's go get this, just in case, you know? There's no bad reason to prep at all. What's the worst thing that happens? You give some of those cans of food to a shelter or a food bank, and they give it to people that really need it. That's what we do. When our food gets long in the tooth, I take it. If I haven't used it, I go and I give it to the people in need, and then I replenish with other stuff. So, prepping is important right now, folks. There's a moment. You've got some time. But if you think for 1 second that this thing is going to easily diffuse, we don't have any diplomats doing anything. Now, that might change. Trump might get in there. Trump might be the peace through strength guy, and they decide to talk to him, and he and Putin and Kim Jong-un get along, and he and Xi Jinping get a mutual respect, and they work out something where, it all works out, and he makes Canada and Mexico do what they're supposed to do, and everything just goes the way it's supposed to go. I pray to God that happens. Because I voted against what's currently going on. That's what I voted. Again, I'm not a big Trumper. I don't, my sovereigns are not of this earth. Okay? I got in trouble. I said Jesus Christ. This guy went on this long diatribe about how that's like a name by Satan and all that. So Yahweh, whatever you want to call him, God, that's the person I'm beholden to. People on earth that are running the show, they're human beings. They poop, they pee, they belch. They've got awkward moments. They're just human beings. So I don't have any true faith that they're going to solve all the problems for us. My faith is in God. So anyway, that's why this Damascus thing in Syria is interesting, because if you know about the Ezekiel 38 war, Damascus can be no more, according to it. So if that's what we're on the road to, and Damascus falls, and, then it is what it is. So, yeah, I love Jesus too, man. And that's why, because Jesus loves you, Wolf Mom. So, I don't know. I love people get mad and they say, oh, you're saying it wrong or whatever. I mean, I don't read that much into what names are and can go down every rabbit hole as it pertains to religion. I can just go to church and read some verses and try to employ that in my life and be as good of a human being as possible. And probably that's not enough. I get that. But I don't know. Use some Jesus now. My favorite are the people that have the Jesus 2024 out there. So, yeah, all this is big problems right now. So we're going to have to see. Is this man going to stay in power? I don't know. I don't know. So, okay, there's a pretty lady. That's Turkish. Anyway, there's what the areas are looking like. There we go. So there's Syria on the big map. Do they possess sufficient backing in the eastern regions to push to the river and control its supply routes, or will they encounter strong resistance from locals? So that's it right there. That's a whole deal right there. So what we're going to see, there's the lake right there. I think that is Homs, and Aleppo's up here, and Damascus is down here. So I guess we'll just have to see. And then of course Tartus is over here, and that's a big question. What are the Russians going to do? What are the Iranians going to do? I don't know. But the global order is in check as it stands right now. You are in for interesting times, folks. Really are. Whole thing could go up be a powder keg and just starts in the Middle East, then moves to Ukraine and then Asia and on from there. Or we get some people in there to talk to each other and we diffuse the situation. We get some more prosperity and peace and we push it off for another day. I got kids. That's what I hope for. I don't want any of this stuff. You know why? Because my kids are getting to the point where militarily they will be asked to participate, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. And I don't want that. I want them to go on and do whatever it is they're going to do without having to be pushed into the military unless they choose it. If my son chooses to go into the military, I'd back him 100%. We have multiple military people. It's been very good to my wife's niece. She is excelling for the Air Force. We don't even really know where she is. Her clearance level has gone way up, so we don't even know exactly where she is anymore. And she missed her great-grandfather's, it would be great-grandfather's. Grandfather's. Sorry, grandfather's funeral. I had to think of my wife's family demographics there for a moment. So, yeah, this is all pretty questionable right now. So, there's Syria, there's Georgia. Remember, Georgia's going up too. So you got all this right here. Well, Georgia's up here as well. So, the Treaty of Lausanne, interesting. A little Turkish history for you. Russian Air Force launched attacks on positions, command centers, weapons depots, militants. Yep. Dramatic turn of events. Syrian President Bashar has returned to Damascus following critical military setbacks in Aleppo. His brother's statue was torn down there. I forget his first name, but anyway. Big events are going on right now. Everybody thought the ceasefire was going to be a turning point and everything was going to get better, and here we are 72, 96 hours later, and it's a friggin' trash heap. So, it's like, oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what Assad has to bring to us from the world right here. So, Ukrainians fight back. Nope, nothing there. So, let's see what Russia and Iran has got going on right here. Right there. 5 years, backing of Iran, Russia, and 11 militias. Yep. So there's a better map over here on the global scale. There's Aleppo right up there. And there is Damascus down there. There, of course, is Israel. There's Lebanon, the fighting. You'll see how close Damascus is. You have the Jordanians right there. And then that's what the region looks like. And the region is really having some problems right now. So, it says it took Assad nearly 5 years of the backing of Iran, Russia, and 11 militias to capture Aleppo, and he lost it in only 3 days. By the way, also, they're saying that there are Ukrainians that are in these forces that are helping. They're saying there's Uzbek and Tajiks. A lot of the Turkish people, or Turkic as it's called, in the stands over there from Turkmenistan. Armenia had people, they withdrew. So, they basically took the fighting and went from here and here, and now it's over here. So just shifting. That's the problem. And every time it shifts, it gets a little bit worse. It's not getting better. So I don't know. I don't know if Bashar al-Assad will stand, but if he goes out and they lose Tartus, then you're going to see a real Russian response. So, as you can see, there's this is the resistance flag over here for the Syrians, and of course you've got the Ukrainian flag. So, yep, civil war, Russia's biggest setback in the Middle East. since 2015. This was the scene of what happened in Syria when all this started a couple days yesterday. So, a few days ago. As you can see, it's becoming mayhem. And then on top of all this, the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, there were multiple incidents of breaking that ceasefire, from weapons deliveries to shootings to rockets, the whole nine yards, you name it. There were numerous things that happened in the last 24, 48 hours that have basically made it so, it could be getting worse. Yep. Look at that city, Look at that. That's their day-to-day life. Now, the good news is that probably won't happen to a place like America in our future, but maybe. Who knows? I'm not going to say it's going to, but I'm also not going to say it can't happen. Who knows? So this is why you prep. This is why you do everything you can now. This is why you get all the stuff in order now. You put your food away, your energy, your medicine, your security, all that kind of stuff, because nobody knows what's going to happen day to day, especially if this gets going and our diplomats fail and the Russians really start throwing punches and the Iranians really start throwing punches and the Chinese decide to become opportunistic and take the craziness of the world and reestablish themselves on their island that they miss and want to bring back into their fold. So that is basically it. Let's just see if there's... Oh, they do like to show the breastises. Okay. Move up from there. So, yeah. Whole thing is messed up. So there's Damascus. Let's see what's going on in the latest here. Information emerged that attempted coup against Assad is taking place in Damascus. Gunfired here. That's the last I've heard, too. I haven't heard anything since. Rumors of the coup within the Assad regime army continue. The coup attempt is allegedly led by Hassam Luka, an intelligence officer in the Assad regime. Assad regime forces are destroying their own weapons warehouses in Hom's countryside. So that's a problem. So I guess that's the guy right there to the left. There's some of the wonderful things going on. Yep, military coup underway. Syria another day, another leader to take fall in the Middle East. So, is this guy going to be our next leader of Syria? I don't know. There's people on the East that are saying this whole thing is just being mimicked and it's not real. But I don't know. I've seen a lot of things to say that it is actually, there are things going on. So, all right, folks. I think we're going to chop it off right there. I really appreciate you. Hit that like button. Do the subscribe thing if you are new here. Check out the links in the description. If you would like to join us as a member, please. Okay. Nose picking. I actually did get the notification for her email. I know she is in Hawaii. I will definitely check that out as soon as I am done here. But yeah, if you want to join JFlow and the others, it's $2 a month to help the cause. That way I don't have to pimp EMP devices or anything, and I can just come and give you straight news. It is usually 24 hours ahead of everybody else and away from a guy that's got an actual backing and background in this stuff and teaches history for a living with multiple degrees. So, and I'm not saying that because I think I'm cool. I'm saying that because I want you to know that my information is really coming from a place of intelligence and full perspective. I loathe war. That's why I teach it. I hope in my lifetime war ends, but I don't know. I don't see that happening. I see this just going and going and going and going. But yep, all right. There's also Substack, preppernow.substack.com for the crisis report. There is youtube.com/@crisisreport. There is Subscribestar, which I've been populating stuff as of late for $3 a month. That helps support the cause and gets you information that gets you in trouble elsewhere. Same thing with Locals. I'm on Rumble. I haven't done a video in a while. I got to do one. Steven Dixon, I'm sorry, bud. I've let you down. I need to do another video over there, so we'll try to do one tonight now that we're done with all this. But God bless, friends. We're going to turn it off, and we will see you on the next one.